This is the pilot episode of the Unapologetic Gentlemen. Been so anxious to start, and we're finally here, ready to go. This is Tyrone, your host. Got my two co-hosts with me. Just a little bit about me. I'm from Boston originally, living in South Florida. Proud dad, proud husband, former football player. Just love living life, and proud to be here with these guys. So throw it to you, JD.
Jolon Dunbar. Long time ago, I used to play this sport called football. Someone said I was halfway decent at it. Played in the NFL for about 9 years. Won a Super Bowl with the New Orleans Saints. I am a big New Orleans fan. Do not judge my Miami Dolphins shirt. Please do not.
Where did you win the Super Bowl?
New Orleans. In Miami.
In Miami, okay.
Yeah. Proud father. Just like working hard. Love my family. Love God. Love life. All that good stuff. Gonzo, I think that's your time.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? My name's Gonzo. I'm the military veteran that you guys see in the bio. Not much to really share as far as that experience goes. I'm here to have some fun and to, add some fuckery, let's just say, to the podcast.
And he's a proud dad as well.
Proud dad, yes. Love my son,
and,
Logan.
Just to get into it, this podcast, we started this podcast mainly because, we've been arguing and debating for so many years about different things. And, many people have come to us and, talked about us starting a podcast. And it's been a long time coming for years. And we're ready to rock and roll and just jump into the current events of today and what's happening in America and around the world. And to start it off now, we're going to discuss the upcoming election and Donald Trump and Biden and politics. The question I have for you guys is, do you guys believe that Donald Trump is a racist?
For me, it's hard for me to actually say someone's a racist.
That's what yes. I beat around the bush.
Oh my God. If I had to say yes or no, I'm definitely gonna say yes. I hope personally, I just see the best in people, and I would hope that someone isn't racist simply because I'm not. But to answer your question, yeah, I mean, if I had to pick one, hell yeah, that would just be my opinion, and that's just based off of some of the things that's been said, some of the things that's been done, and recent history. And not even so much recent history, just in some of his business ventures and how that has gone in terms of people of color.
For me, it's more so of watch what people do, not what they say. So if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And with the things that I've seen him do and say, there might be a little racist bone in him. I can't say he's full-blown racist, but there might be a little bit of a racist inside of him. But that's something that, like Joey said, that's something that you really can't just put that on somebody. But if it quacks like a duck and it looks like a duck, to me, it's a duck. And with some of the actions that he's done, some of the questions that he's been asked and ignored, that to me goes to the level of racist versus not racist.
I mean, again, for me, I echo those sentiments, maybe just a little bit different because I think it's hard to know what's in someone's heart in terms of racism. There are levels definitely to racism. I feel like Donald Trump does try to appease his radical right voters to get out and vote, in instances in Charlottesville and lately on the debate. He did not want to denounce white supremacy, although he has denounced it before. I think that should be an immediate denouncement of radical white supremacy at all times immediately. Also, in his dealings in the past, I mean, he's done some things that are kind of sketchy in his past. He's been sued by people of color for, things with housing and stuff like that. But also he's been, pictured, videoed. He's been out places with some of the, most high class and richest of the rich, famous of the famous black people and people of color. So, the Snoop Dogg's, the Don Kings, all these people used to love Donald Trump. He was in every rap song. So, I mean, it's a thin line, definitely. But I do think he is playing up to his voters in a way. I'm not sure if he's a full blown racist, but
I got a quick question for you. What about in the debate when he said, "I'll stand back and stand by with the white supremacy"? What do you think about that?
Again, I think he needs those people to win. The radical right is, people that have recently voted for Republicans, and there was a saying that every Trump supporter is not racist, but every racist is a Trump supporter. So, yeah, I mean, he's doing what he has to do. When Barack Obama was running for president, I know a few years before that, when he was a senator, he didn't necessarily agree with gay marriage. And, then all of a sudden, when he was running for the presidency, he was the flagship leader for the LGBT community. So things can change based on politics and, what people in your ear are trying to do and tell you to win. Because at the end of the day, these guys are puppets. There's someone in the back pulling the strings on these people. So, he's off the cuff. But I don't know. There's definitely things that he does that I don't like as a black man, but, it is what it is.
What are those things? That's what I want to know, JD. What are some of those things? Well, I don't want you to answer for him, but as a black man,
the way he talks, he's very provocative. He gives that visceral reaction. Again, it's not so much policy; it's more so his demeanor, coming from seeing Barack Obama in office for 8 years with no scandals, super articulate. Exudes class, grace, and Donald Trump is the opposite of that. Everything about him to me is not presidential. Again, we shouldn't be surprised because he was a billionaire playboy with 3 different baby moms, cheating on his wives with porn stars, and etc. So, I mean, a lot of this isn't surprising to me because he was that guy before he ever became president.
It's definitely not his policies, without a doubt. Definitely not his policies. To me, it's his rhetoric. I don't mind that he doesn't stand up to the presidents of the past in terms of how he articulates himself or how he handles himself. I don't mind that. That doesn't bother me so much. It's his rhetoric. His rhetoric can be dangerous. His rhetoric, not even can be. His rhetoric is dangerous, and it's dangerous to people like me, people that look like me. It's funny. I was talking to my dad about this a while ago, a couple weeks ago, and my mom went from Syracuse and she went down to Washington and she marched on Washington, and I'm saying to myself, my mom just marched on Washington. My mom, she was born in 1962. They were marching on Washington for the same shit in 1962, and she has to do it now. So that's my problem. My problem is that we're still here. We're still in the same place, and this rhetoric that's being used currently is dangerous for people that look like me, you, my daughter, my friends, my loved ones, and that's where I draw the line.
The question that I have for that is, instead of just speaking of the problem, what are some solutions that people in our age bracket, millennials and Generation Z, can do to change that so that the 1962 march, 2020 riots can eventually end, so that when our kids get to a certain age, they don't have to go through everything that we're going through or seeing?
I mean, I think as parents, a lot of it falls on you to create, to educate, and to rear children in a direction to where, color, race, gender, things like that just don't come into play. We've come a long way, obviously, as a country.
Of course.
But yeah, there's certain things that we just still shouldn't be dealing with. And I know human nature, people are just tribal in general. But you know, there have been policies put in place to kind of help that and facilitate it. But I think it just comes down to parenting. If you're inherently prejudice or a bigot or racist, I mean, a lot of times you're raising people to be those things, because racism, prejudice, bigotry, it's learned. It's a learned thing, right? You see kids playing in a park or in kindergarten. We have children, like no one's born a racist.
How will we break that cycle, though? That's the hard part.
I think to couple that, yeah, of course it has a lot to do with upbringing, but it also has a lot to do with how we're raising our kids and the Generation Z and whatever generation comes behind that to be in politics. As a person, as a black man from Syracuse, New York, I mean, I had never even thought about politics, and I'm sure everybody that was around, grew up with, played ball with, no one ever said they wanted to be a politician. Like it just, I met my first guy that wanted to be a politician in 2012 when I moved to St. Louis. I met a kid who I don't want to call him a kid, he's a grown man, but I met a grown man who is working for a politician and wants to be in politics. That's the first time I met one. I was 26 years old. That's crazy. Like, to me, that's crazy.
So I want to piggyback off that, right? In terms of politics. So you have the Asian American community who are, you know, whatever level you deem success, most people deem it from an educational, financial standpoint. And obviously, there's different ways to be successful, but apart from Andrew Yang, I don't really remember any Asians in politics. And from a statistical standpoint, Asian Americans are ranked very highly from an educational and financial standpoint compared to every other American. So they don't really have figures in politics to change anything. So is it a cultural thing? Because I think it comes back to also our communities, black people, especially in America, the way we're raising our children, the way we were raised, the communities that we're raised in. Does that, I want to ask you guys, do you think that plays a bigger part than politics? Because if you look at, for example, Caribbean immigrants, African immigrants, they do better from an educational and financial standpoint when they come to America than black Americans do who have been here for generations. So is it a cultural thing, or is it because they
Systemic.
also, right?
Systemic.
But those Africans and those Caribbean people, for the most part, are black. So when they come here, right, they're also inheriting the same racism and systemic racism, quote unquote, right, that we deal with. But they achieve at a higher level than we do statistically. So I guess my question is, apart from the politics, is it something that we need to address from more of a grassroots level in terms of, you know?
Absolutely. It goes back to what I'm talking about, meeting my first politician at 26.
Yeah.
Like, if we're raising our children to move in that progressive way, our children will come up that way. Like, again, when I grew up, the only person that was making money in my neighborhood was Dorsey Levens, who played in NFL, and half the drug dealers that was running around the town. So,
but you say progressive, but is progressive what we want? And I the only reason why I say that is most of the black people in America were raised Baptist, right? So that's an inherently conservative viewpoint on life, right? My father, my grandfather, they didn't believe in homosexuality. There's a lot of things that they didn't believe in that, the modern day Republican and conservative believes in, but they almost always voted Democrat.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you and I know why they have those religious beliefs. Those religious beliefs were 400 years ago.
Yeah.
So those religious beliefs are there because of 400 years ago. And I'm not saying that conservative approach is in a way because obviously I believe in Jesus Christ and I feel that way with a lot of things, but I'm also, I guess, moderate in my viewpoints because I'm perfectly fine with homosexuality and LGBTQ community. So I think that still, like, it would, for us as, back to the original question, for us as Black people or people of color to make real change, it does start at a grassroots level, and it starts at a grassroots level as in terms of raising our children in a way to not only see basketball, football, baseball, and this cheerleading makeup, like, and it's raising our children in a way to see the world where they're doing things that actually make change. Like, I was listening to something, and I Black people have sweat equity. We have sweat wealth. Everything, like, not everything, but most of the things that we do, and most of the things that we have is sweat. Like basketball, football, acting, that's sweat. Like, I don't care how you put it, but if we have to change, if we can change those things at a grassroots level from children and teach our children and raise our children in a way where they're ready to make those kind of changes for people.
That's the point of view of people that are being oppressed. But what about changing the oppressor? What do we do with that? That's the problem.
That is a great question.
Yeah, of course.
I had a conservative tell me once that if Black people in America to the age of 18 could avoid dropping out of school, going to prison, and being involved in teenage pregnancy, it would alleviate a lot of the stresses that we put on ourselves at the grassroots level. Right? What do you guys think about that?
I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
I agree with it too, but it's a major problem. So how do we address it though? That's what I want to know. So I just so you guys know, I have 3 brothers. I'm the youngest of 4, right? So I have a brother who didn't graduate from high school. This same brother had a kid at 15, went to prison at 16, right? So he's rehabilitated. He spent a large chunk of his life in prison, right? But now he's out. He's a multiple felon. He's trying to get his life better, right? But having had those things happen in his past at a younger age, how does he move forward to reach the American dream?
I think, in my opinion, it falls back to what Joey was saying. It comes down to education, man. We need to put people of ethnicity in power. We need to have them in positions of power to make those decisions. Because at the end of the day, people that have never felt racism, never been oppressed, they don't know what it feels like. You can't have someone feel for you if they don't know what it feels like. You know, like, that's my personal opinion, right? And
but are we wrong for that, right? How am I going to ask a white man, right, to put himself in my shoes? You can't, right? So the things that, right, my wife, we've been together for a long time, right? She's gone places with me and seen things, right, that to me, being a Black man and growing up and being 35 years old, are just normal to me.
They're hitting that elevator close button on you.
But they don't bother me, right? Because I've seen them so much, like me walking by someone and them grabbing their purse, right? Me going to an elevator and someone not wanting to get on. Me being on Southwest Airlines where everyone chooses their own seat and all the seats are filled except the 2 seats that are next to me, right? But it's just normal to me. I think I've grown numb to it, right? So how do you put a white man in those shoes and for him to have that understanding? I don't think it's possible.
It's not possible.
Right? So I think it's wrong for us to ask them to be to put themselves in our shoes, right? I think we just want empathy. We just want to be treated equally. We don't, and when I say we, I'm saying me. I don't want anything. I don't want any handouts. I don't want anything given to me. I don't want special treatment. I don't even need you to relate to me. All I want to do is be treated equal. That's all. That's all. And I don't want the reason why I don't get something to be because I'm black. That's the root for me. That's all I ask for. So I think as black people, there's no way for, as a black man, there's no way for a white man to understand what it feels like. It's just a different feeling. Just like I wouldn't know what it would feel like to be
a woman,
to be a white man. Peacock came out with this show. I was telling you guys a few weeks back, called Knots and Crosses, which is basically, it's a best-selling book, which is basically what the world would look like if Africa took over Europe. Interesting. Any of the listeners, you guys should definitely go watch it. It's an interesting perspective because it flip-flops everything that exists in life now. It's very interesting from that way. But I want to move on, get some of these questions. So one of our social media followers asked, should people of color trust Joe Biden and Kamala Harris considering their political history?
Should Joe Biden, say that again?
Should people of color trust Joe Biden and Kamala Harris considering their political history? Now, if you guys don't know about their history, let me give you a couple of things, right?
I'm gonna have to get that.
I can answer that question without it.
Okay, go for it, Joe.
Yes. Yes. And
yes, people of color should trust them.
Yes, and it's not so much that I trust them. It's not so much of my trust in them. It's my lack of trust in the other candidate. When you have to compare them to Trump, I'll take Biden. Like, if I have to compare them to Trump, I'll take Biden.
So you gotta take
even though we're
take two poison pills, so you're gonna go with.
I'm gonna go with the lesser evil. The lesser evil.
Even though
that's what it's coming down to.
If Donald Trump's racist, we know for a fact that in Joe Biden's past, he said blatant
of course.
racist things. He said
of course.
that he didn't want, right, when integration was happening, he didn't want his children to go to school in a racial jungle.
Of course.
So the real question here is, who's more racist, Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
The thing was that during that time, a lot of people felt that way, and I'm not taking Joe Biden's side on that. His ass is wrong. Seriously. So I'm not taking his side on that. I am also okay with someone changing their viewpoint. If you could sit here and if I said something that was wrong, or I later found out was wrong, am I man enough to say I was wrong?
But we're questioning what's in people's hearts, right? He put his heart on his sleeve at that moment, and it might have been in 1970 something, but he said it. It's there now. Kamala Harris, right? She's put a lot of black men in jail when she was a district attorney. She's also twice, right? If viewers want to go look it up, she twice withheld evidence as the district attorney, right? So that she could keep her conviction rate up for people to go to prison. So she knew she wrongfully imprisoned 2 men. Now, it's 2 people we know of. She was a district attorney for a while, so it might have been a lot more. So my thing is, it's one thing to question if someone's a racist. It's another thing for someone to show it at some point in their life.
So did Biden
definitively?
Did Biden choose her as her running mate to get the black vote?
Also, Kamala Harris called Joe Biden a racist a few months ago, before she got the nomination.
Listen, that is the theme. That's the theme you go when you go with Biden. But when you go with Biden, because you know what the '94 crime bill was, the segregation. What he said via segregation.
But he was part of the crime bill too. I thought he was. He's been in politics for 47 years.
But my thing is, my thing here is simply this: the rhetoric is dangerous. Like I can't. Not that I can't. I'm gonna live in a world with it that way or not. But it's very dangerous to see that kind of rhetoric, hear that kind of rhetoric Know that it's literally anarchy on the streets as we speak, and be okay with that and say that's a Biden America. No, it's not a Biden America. That's a Trump America. We live in Trump's America. That's what's happening right now. I don't know what will happen 4 years from now, 3 years from now, 2 years from now if Biden becomes a president. I don't know that. But I'm okay with saying, yes, he said something wrong. Yes, she did something wrong.
So what would you say to people who say,
I'm not perfect.
I'd rather have
I've said some stupid stuff.
I'd rather have the devil I know than the devil I don't. What would you say to those people?
That's their own opinion. They're perfectly fine by having that opinion. But again, do you not see the streets? Do you not understand what's dangerous going on right now? You're talking about something that may happen, that could happen, or may not happen.
So do you guys think that if Biden wins, right? So say Biden wins, do you think that white supremacists will come out in droves and there'll be, people are predicting there'll be some civil war?
No,
there will never be civil war.
No, I feel like right now with Trump at the helm, white supremacy just feels a little bit more entitled to be able to come out because they know where he stands.
And Trump's kind of indicated that he's not really willing to accept a loss.
Yeah, but that's just nonsense. That's him being the apprentice. Like, yeah, you don't want to accept your loss, but
hey, I got a side question here real quick. Side question, just because it's relevant and it's current right now. You guys think this is a political play here with him having coronavirus, or you guys think it's legit?
I think it's politically convenient
for
him to have coronavirus. But I mean, I wish him well. I don't wish anything bad on anyone. But it does seem convenient.
October surprise.
It does seem convenient.
October surprise.
So
now, yes, I do wish him well. Let me not say that because I do wish.
I don't wish death on anybody.
No, of course,
not even on.
This was a big topic also on our social media. A lot of black people asked, "What
are we going to get Latino questions?" By the way,
we will. We definitely will.
I mean, it should just be people of color. Yeah, I mean, people referenced that like four times.
But this was specific. So, this was very specific.
Let's go.
What do you guys think of black Republicans?
I'm perfectly fine with a black Republican. I have no problem with a black Republican. You could, I mean, it's your choice. You can choose whatever you like. Listen, you want to know the truth? When I played in the NFL and they wrote me $1 million check and they took $400,000, I wanted to be a Republican. Like that's the truth. Like I can understand.
So you're a fiscal Republican?
No, I'm not a Republican.
Now, do you think
I'm not a Republican? But I can understand.
I want to ask you guys, especially because you guys went to Boston College and there was a lot of people with money there.
I have no problem with that.
Do you guys feel like a black Republican is a black Republican because he comes from a family of wealth?
Yes and no.
Most likely.
Yes and no. But for me, I don't have any. I vote however your conscience feels. It's not that big of a deal. Now I do not like Candace Owens. I do not like Larry Elder. There's some prominent black Republicans that I dislike mainly because they just seem like provocateurs who say inflammatory things just to get reactions. I do the listeners here, if you ever want to do some research on Dr. Thomas Sowell, who's a black Republican. He's wrote a ton of books. He's a guy that speaks in facts and data. That's a Republican that I can get behind. Coleman Hughes is another one that I like. But it's like everything. There's good ones and there's bad ones. I don't agree with Joe Biden saying you're not black if you vote for Trump.
Of course not.
I think that was highly disrespectful to black people. I don't believe that black people should just be blindly voting for Democrats either. You vote with your conscience and you vote on
policy,
the issues.
In my lifetime, I don't think I've ever seen an election banking on using racism as a political
Never.
tool.
And what I'm afraid of is if this happens and this works for Republicans, what the hell would you why would you stop? Why would you stop? I mean, the next Republican president should do the same thing, and it should go on and on and on. Why not?
70% of the country is white.
Why not?
But it's identity politics, and to give Republicans credit, they tend not to want to do identity politics. Now, there's the radical right that, you know, everyone puts in a box, because when you're just a blatant racist, it's hard for people to defend you. That's why, you know, some of those people in Charlottesville that were holding the tiki torches lost their jobs. You know, people that are, you know, calling the police on black people barbecuing in parks and losing their jobs. Yeah, the Karens. So that's the ideology of using race in politics is a Democrat thing.
By the way, you know what a racist hates the most. By the way, I want to ask you guys that question. Social media, because social media has been exposing these motherfuckers like crazy.
Yeah. Another one of our social media people wanted to know, how do you feel about Kanye and him being involved in politics?
It was funny. That's what it was. It was funny.
It was as disrespectful as that poop titty poop, whoop titty whoop song that he came out with. I think it was just a ploy.
Everybody has a right.
If let me tell you something though, real quick. If anybody goes to vote for Kanye, just because
I don't think he's on the ballot. Am I correct? He missed it.
He was trying to get on ballot. But if anybody would have gone out of their way to go vote for Kanye West, you might as well have not even gone to the polls.
I mean, me on Kanye West, I rate his music highly. I rate his clothes and fashion highly. But in terms of politics, I mean, I don't even pay that man attention.
Yeah, I mean, it
was just pure ignorance, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of move on a little bit
let's go to the next question.
A little bit out of politics, but you know, this can be political and it's been made political. Another one of our social media people want to know, what is the difference between Black Lives Matter the movement and Black Lives Matter the organization, and why is Black Lives Matter so polarizing?
I'm gonna let Joey. I'm gonna piggyback up for you guys on this. These.
Say the question again. I'm sorry.
What is the difference between Black Lives Matter the movement and Black Lives Matter the organization, and why is Black Lives Matter so polarizing?
I think there's a disconnect. The hashtag has become famous, so like we can all agree to that. Now the movement is to recognize that the systematic injustices that are going on in the country, and that the movement is where what should get the most attention, in my opinion. The movement, and because the movement is what will or could or should affect change. Now the organization. That's
where I have a lot of questions, by the way.
The organization, it's just like any other organization. You're going to have good people, you're going to have bad people, you're going to have ugly people. You're going to have people doing the right thing for the movement, and you're going to have people who are not. And that's where the water will get muddy. And I can understand how someone who doesn't understand or doesn't want to separate the two can get confused there. But the movement is where your effort, your energy, your thoughts should go, because that's what's going to affect change. And I agree, it's hard.
And I have another question for you. Do you think that the visceral reaction to Colin Kaepernick kneeling has a lot of people, that's the reason why they don't want to support the Black Lives Matter movement? Because it's kind of intertwined.
And I want to say something before you answer that, Joey. And Tyrone and I have spoken about this a lot, especially I think when it first happened too with the whole Colin Kaepernick thing. Myself being a military veteran, my brother being a Marine, we have the conversations with our friends all of the time. And just to put it out there, I'm not going to speak for every military personnel. For the majority of the ones that I speak to about Colin Kaepernick taking a knee, that is the reason why we joined the military, to give people that right and that freedom to do whatever the fuck they want to do. And that's literally why people like myself and like my brother joined the military, is so that we can live in a country where you can do what you feel is right in your heart without somebody or government or telling you what you can and cannot do. And that's what I wanted to add.
I grew up believing that's what it stands for. Now, back to your question. I may have forgot your question. I apologize.
Colin Kaepernick
taking a stand. It had to do with Colin Kaepernick taking a stand.
Yeah, and how a lot of white Americans that I've spoken to who just absolutely hate Colin Kaepernick, and they believe this Black Lives Matter movement is directly tied to him, so they can't get behind it.
I mean, it's the Black Lives Matter movement will always be tied to Colin Kaepernick, because that's where the eyes first were set.
But do you think now it should be separated?
No.
In terms of if you hate Colin Kaepernick, because this is the way I look at it, right? Actions have consequences, right? So he decided to kneel, which I support.
Yep.
The NFL decided to blackball him because of his actions.
Roger Goodell was backpedaling.
Which we live in a free country, so everybody that's a billionaire who owns a team is well within their right.
Of course.
Okay? So Americans who believe that he disrespected the flag or don't believe that he should have knelt, they are entitled to their opinion as well, because we live in America. Now, but to me, the reason why I don't believe that they should keep, because those are two separate things, right? Everyone that believes in the Black Lives Matter movement doesn't necessarily believe in kneeling, right? Because to me, what the Black Lives Matter movement has done is it's exposed a lot of racism within, right? We've played on football teams, within coaching, within school, within management. So it's different. Now, the Black Lives Matter organization, I don't really know enough about, but what I do know about it, I'm skeptical, right? But the Black Lives Matter movement, I'm 100% behind. As a black person, you have to be behind it, right? But the Black Lives Matter organization is something different. But to our why is it polarizing, I think it's very polarizing because people are attaching Colin Kaepernick to it, even though he was the spark, right? The things that people are doing on the ground level now don't have anything to do with kneeling for the flag. Because I think for some people, they're never going to get over kneeling for the flag. But that's just a non-starter.
They would never get over kneeling for the flag. But they are always going to be connected, and they should be connected. And I think they should stay connected, simply because the root of the problem here, the reason he knelt was because of social injustice. Like it had nothing to do with anything else but social injustice, systematic racism, social injustice. Those are the root issues that the Black Lives Matter movement are trying to that's the effort. That's the effort they're trying to put forth. So I think those two will always, and they should always, be linked together for those two reasons alone.
But now, if Black Lives Matter movement, right, wants to pull those people in who viscerally disagree with Colin Kaepernick and what he did, how do we get them to remove that, to understand that this movement is good? Because I feel like the same people that disagree with him are the All Lives Matter people.
That's not completely true.
It's not always true. It's not completely true. But there's correlations.
There's certainly correlations. But what I'm saying is that these two, the kneeling. You have to let some of it go. The kneeling was honestly just a spark, as you said earlier. Yeah. It's just a spark.
But he said because of disrespect to the flag.
But which I fully agree with the kneeling.
It's people. Right? People feel like it's disrespectful to the flag. It had nothing to do with the flag. And I'm
correct. But they were making it about the flag so that they can take away the light of why it was really about.
Yeah, I feel like them making it about the flag gives them leeway to not take the Black Lives Matter movement
seriously.
100%.
Of course, but again, if you've heard if you want to open your ears and listen to anything Colin Kaepernick said, this kneeling.
But everyone's heard kneeling. It. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that the former Seattle Seahawk, who was a Green Beret, is the one who told Colin Kaepernick to kneel. So everyone knows that.
Then you don't want to help.
Right?
You don't want to help yourself.
Even though people know that, right? They still disagree. For example, your old teammate, your ex-teammate who won a Super Bowl with you, Drew Brees.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So he was also one of those people who absolutely heard and knew of the things that happened and were discussed with Colin Kaepernick and the Green Beret. I'm sorry, I forget his name.
Don't ever forget his name.
No, not Drew Brees. I forget the Green Beret guy's name.
Michael Jackson, number 9. Moonwalk. That man was right next to Roger.
So my thing is, everyone knows, right? But then people will say, "Well, he wore the pig socks. Well, he wore the shirt that offended the Cubans. He's done some things that, right?" But my point is that because there's so many people that feel so strongly about what Colin Kaepernick did, those people it's hard for them to get in line with the Black Lives Matter.
Those
movement.
people are nationalists. They're just hardcore nationalists.
You know what cracks me up about them, Joey, though? It is the argument that I always have, and it's hilarious. The people that are hardcore about the kneeling and the flag, they're real quick to change the subject when you ask them.
Nate Boyer.
Nate Boyer.
Hey,
great shout out. Shout out to Nate Boyer.
Shout out.
They are real quick when it comes to the flag and arguing about it and being patriotic. They're real quick to shut up when you ask them to sign that dotted line to go serve. That's one thing that I've noticed every single time.
A lot of people
about the most patriotic people that are saying it's about the flag and not about Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. But I think that those people have to set aside the fact that there was a kneeling for a flag, and there will be kneeling for flags until whenever. They have to set that aside because the issue isn't kneeling for the flag. And if you're not going to take time to understand the issue for kneeling for the flag, then you're never on our side. You're not going to be on our side.
Those same people were more mad about Colin Kaepernick's kneeling than the cop kneeling.
Absolutely.
on Floyd's neck.
They're nationalists. They're hardcore nationalists.
To segue into that, right? Black Lives Matter kind of started because of police brutality and injustices on people of color. Another one of our social media questions is, so police brutality really an issue of police being racist, or do the statistics say otherwise?
I can't say that every cop is a racist.
Yeah,
that's not what I'm going to say.
That's not right.
I have family, I have friends, and they're far from racist.
That's not right to say that.
So I wouldn't. I wouldn't say that.
I would agree with that 100%. I don't think any cop wakes up and thinks to themselves, "Today I'm going to shoot or kill a black man." I do not believe that. But my question, I guess I would say, is, do the black stereotypes and Latino stereotypes, racial profiling, does that cause unnecessary dealings with police?
That's crazy. We're like, most times police are called for mental health issues. Like 9 times out of 10, they're called for. That's.
And most police officers aren't equipped to deal with that.
Aren't equipped to handle that. They're not equipped to handle those kind of issues. So yeah, they're being called out to things that they should not be called out to. Yes, but they're also
defunding the police is
situations.
Definitely not something that we want.
So that's also a question. Should we defund the police?
Absolutely.
And should people of color?
You said defund the police? Absolutely.
Defund the police. I do not believe in abolishing the police, but defunding them? Absolutely.
What do you mean?
Why do they need a $500 million budget?
And what would that entail for you, defunding them?
What did that entail?
Yeah, how does that make the situation better?
If whatever budget, because whatever what they're using it on, they're not using it on.
Okay, so let me.
I seen it. You know what I saw? I seen Miami Beach had a slingshot car. A slingshot. It's like $40,000.
So you're saying you're not saying defund them, but you're saying use it for better things.
Somebody, of course, I'm saying defund them, and I'm saying yes, use it for better things. But they bought a slingshot.
Okay, so
you hear me? They bought a slingshot.
To piggyback off that,
they're buying toys.
They're buying fucking toys.
Another one of our social media questions was, if you're going to defund the police, how would you like to see those funds redistributed better to serve the communities?
They have to go back in the communities, in my opinion. I think they have to go back in the communities.
Because people don't like to give away money just to give it away. There has to be a plan.
Of course. And I haven't put together a detailed plan.
I know, but I just want to hear a couple of thoughts.
No, it should go back in. It should go back into school systems. It should go back into healthcare. It should go back into. I care less for playgrounds. I care less for hoops. I care less for educational programs. It should go back into STEM programs, science programs, entrepreneurship programs. It should go back into the community.
So taking money away from the police.
They have an $800 million budget. Do you know how much overtime they get? You know how much money they make? I
know a few police officers in Boston that are making bank.
This is insane. They make like $300,000 off overtime, $400,000 off overtime.
That's
this
crazy.
is insane. It's insane. You have to dissect.
I think instead of buying a slingshot, it should go into
let me
training
tell you
that I talked about.
They should not buy a slingshot. They shouldn't buy combat.
We agree that they shouldn't buy toys. But what would you say to people? Right? What would you say to people who believe that? Right, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here. What would you say to people who believe that it's an inherently dangerous job that most people don't and can't do, and police deserve to be paid more, not less.
I would agree with them. I would agree with there's
depending on their duty. Depending on their duty.
Once you defund the police and you advocate some of that money to mental health and that program and seeking professionals to handle mental health issues, they're not going to be as busy.
But speaking of mental health too, though, are these cops
mental health people need to be escorted by police, though? No?
Of course. And
hold on. The mental health for these cops too, though. Like, should we have a more rigorous training program, or I guess
there should be.
I know they do have big time psychological.
Yes, that's what I was going to say, because a lot of these cops might be the ones that have mental health as well.
I'm pretty sure they have a pretty good program.
Yeah, but I believe there's a rigorous psychological program that they have. I believe they have. Now you can hide your bigotries, your stereotypes, your prejudices, because at the end of the day, everyone has prejudices. So when I hear people say, "I don't see color," you're lying. Everyone sees color, right? Just like you see when the light's red and it turns green and you press the gas on your car, right? Everyone sees color, but it's tough. The reason why I don't necessarily believe in defunding the police is because no one's coming with a plan to redistribute the money. Plus,
there's multiple ways you could.
Okay, so what would you guys say to? Because I also heard another conservative say, not a conservative. I heard another liberal say, well, AOC basically said that what defunding the police would look like is people of color's community being policed the same way that communities in the suburbs are policed.
That's never.
Do you agree with that?
No, that's never going to happen.
Do you agree with that?
I would be. That's
coming from the places that we came from. Right? I grew up in a project in Boston, right?
That's never going to happen.
I don't believe that project could have been policed the same way as it is where I live now in an affluent community, right? It's just not possible. So,
there's just more crime.
So there's just more.
It's not. But I think I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I think she's saying that treat those neighborhoods, the inner city neighborhoods, the way you treat the suburban
can you is the question. I
think that you can.
I don't know what the percentage is of violent crime, but
I think you can.
Black people commit.
You can,
right? Black people commit a significantly more amount of violent crime than everyone else.
No one's saying that. I'm saying that when there's a crime, handle it the same way you handle it out here. I'm not saying that. We're not saying. Of course, there's going to be more.
But the more police you have and the more police interactions, the more people are going to go to jail.
Of course,
I
completely understand.
The less fathers that are going to end up in the home. That's why we got 4 million black people in prison in America.
Just handle them the same way you handle in suburban neighborhoods.
So you're saying handle them in the sense that we just don't want them to be shot.
Just handle them with care. Yes. Handle them with care. Whether it's being shot, whether it's you fit the description. Like, what the hell? What the hell?
So also, what would you guys say to?
It should be. It should be.
Right, I hear this.
I've been fit the description before.
Right.
Fit the description.
So every time we talk about this subject, I always hear, conservatives say, "Well, look at Chicago." Right. That's kind of like the tagline: "Black on black crime." Right. We know that
of course
people commit crimes within their community. Right. Yeah. So if you're living amongst black people, you tend to commit more crimes. Course. So what would you guys do with Chicago? Because it's crazy.
Hey, here's me playing devil's advocate here too.
It's a tagline because every time we start talking about police brutality, people go, "Well, what about Chicago?"
But here's me playing devil's advocate here. How can you ask a cop to go into a high crime rate neighborhood and a suburban neighborhood and act the same?
Because it's your job. If you don't want that job, find another one.
But what if you just want to, right? So I have a cop friend that I won't say his name, but he basically told me, well, at the end of the day, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
Completely agree with you, because I believe in the Second Amendment. But guess what? It's your job.
It is your job. But if you know that those neighborhoods
high
are
crime rates, high violence,
are you going to be on higher alert?
You're going to be 100%. It's natural.
You pull your weapon unnecessarily.
You should. That doesn't mean you should pull your weapon unnecessarily.
But I'm just saying, because at the end of the day, you're thinking about going home to your wife or husband or children, right?
But that you're getting paid and you signed up for this job. Mm-hmm. Handle it with professionalism. Handle it the way it needs to be handled. I
So
understand it's
in
a
the
crime
military,
rate.
they
I
have
understand
very
that.
specific rules on
I understand
engagement,
that.
right? You have to be shot at first. But does that really hold up in a street in a major city in America where you're just trying to get through your shift and make it home to your family? Does the same thing hold up? Because they don't have the same level of training of guys that are getting deployed.
We had this conversation, off the record, and I told you this. I said if my son was that cop, and he thought he was gonna get shot, something like that, like you said, I want my son making it back home, man. And that's why I asked that question. If a cop is going into a high violent crime area, you expect him to be in the same mindset if he was going into a suburban area where there's
that your job?
But do you think that the
job?
problem is that the people from those communities should be the people policing it? Because if you're from those communities, you're going to feel more comfortable, right? People are going to respect you on a different level.
I don't even care if you're from the community or not. That's your job.
No, but that makes it that's a great point though. That's a great point.
We're talking about psychology,
I can understand
right? We're talking about psychology.
Yeah.
But I don't care if if you're from the neighborhood or not. That's your job. We all get asked to do our job, right? I don't care what you do.
But it's a different job.
Not with your life on the line.
Remember what happened in the
you chose that,
right?
You chose that, right? Am I correct? Don't give me this.
Okay,
it's your life on the line. Don't give me this. I got to get home. You chose this job that required you to get your life on the line. If you didn't want this job, you shouldn't have done it. If you wanted this job in a safe neighborhood, you should have done it in Casper, Wyoming.
But that's just not reality, right?
Obviously, you should have done it in Casper, Wyoming.
Because the school shooting that happened at Stoneman Douglas, right? There was a police officer that could have stopped that kid, but he hid in the closet.
He wanted no part of it,
right? So psychology, that man just wanted to go home.
Of course.
Now there's people that are ridiculing him and saying he's a coward and this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, he's home.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, 20-something kids lost their lives.
Yeah,
am I correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so guess what? You signed up for that job. And you failed to do that.
I would have been
from the beginning.
I would have been irate.
And we're not even talking about it.
If one of my children were at that school and he hid.
We're not even talking about one. We're talking about Stoneman Douglas. It's probably a private school.
But
correct?
We have to take into human nature.
I
get
we have to take human nature
into account.
You have to be mentally, physically, emotionally equipped for that kind of job, and that is done through training. Yes, there needs to be better training, but for me to sit here and say that these two neighborhoods need to be policed different is blasphemous.
It goes back to allocating funds versus defunding. Then
you allocate funds, but there's a budget that's way too
high,
big. That's my problem. My problem is not that they have the money. It's that you have an excess.
Who's
of money.
policing the police?
You have an excess of money. If you have an $800 million budget,
there's a blue shield. There's a blue code amongst police officers.
But that's also in the military too.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. There's a blue code. There's a code in football.
You guys had it in the locker room too. Yes, I bet. Yeah,
there's a code. I get
Absolutely.
that. I get that. But at no point in time did you sell your boy out. We playing together. I don't like what you did, but I'm not gonna sell you out.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. I'm not gonna. You need backup. I'm just not gonna do it.
That's crazy.
That's insane. You want to know why? That's insane because they feel like they can do this. That's crazy. Why would you feel like you can do this? Why would you feel like that's okay? If you have the balls to feel like that's okay, there's a problem, and that's my issue.
Back to the original crux of the question. Do you? So we agree that we don't necessarily believe that police are racist, correct?
No, I don't believe
that.
No.
Okay.
There's racist police, yes, but not all police are
inherently
racist.
Yeah, obviously not. Obvious to us, not to some people. But how do we get to a point where we, as people of color, feel like we're being treated equal? Because I feel like most things in life I've done right. I don't have any felonies. I haven't committed any crimes. I'm a husband and a dad. I go to work. I pay my taxes. But I've been profiled. There's police that have treated me wonderfully, but there's been cases that I've felt very uncomfortable with police officers, and I feel like I shouldn't have to. I feel like that's not a conversation that I should have to have with my son.
Well, you're gonna have to have it.
I know, but how do we get to a point where
we won't?
We'll never get to that.
We won't. Not in our lifetime. I'm comfortable to say that.
So when we get to that point in our children's life,
I would be.
I think you know what I always say. I always say that millennials and Generation Z are going to be such progressive thinkers that once we take those seats of power in our government, we're going to see a leap.
That's if we have if our children are raised in a way to participate. I
think once millennials take seats of power in our government seats, I think that we're going to see a big progressive change. I truly believe that. I hope so. I think in technology, in racism, I really believe that millennials and especially Generation Z, I think just because social media and the internet brings everybody together, and I think it gives them more of that community feeling.
But it also divides people, and those same people that it's dividing are the ones that are living in these affluent neighborhoods who want to be senators, who want to be governors, who want to be presidents, who want to be Supreme Court justice. Like, in the progressive, in my opinion, most of us don't want to do that.
So let me ask you guys another question.
Aren't raised to do that.
Do you think non-people of color, white people, how do you feel about them staying? How do you feel about the people who are not people of color who are staying quiet on these type of issues that
staying
are
on the sidelines?
Our society. Do you feel some type of way? Do you feel it's their right? Do you feel they should be actively involved? Do you feel it's not their place? Because I feel like I've heard black people say, you know, it's not their place to say. This is something that we should decide. I feel like I've seen on social media black people calling out white people who aren't posting Black Lives Matter stuff, who aren't getting involved with the movement, who aren't protesting, who aren't saying anything. What do you guys feel in terms of that?
I think it's do what you feel is right in your heart.
I absolutely
if you feel like going and to a Black Lives Matter protest and you're a Caucasian, then be at that Black Lives Matter protest, right? Because there's plenty of my black friends that I know that didn't go to a Black Lives Matter protest and nobody's telling them anything.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So it's like, do what you feel is right.
I agree.
That's the same way I feel about the kneeling in the NFL. Like, there's so many black players that didn't kneel. Who are we to tell Drew Brees or Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady to kneel, right? When there's so many black guys that didn't kneel and we didn't say anything.
Correct.
So,
I mean, let's not discredit that. There's half these black people that kneel because they can't.
Yeah, I mean, it's a money thing.
It's like
it's a money thing. 100%.
It's not like it's a money. It's
thing.
not they didn't want to.
It's a money
thing.
What do you mean it's a money thing, though?
I'm the 30th man on the roster.
Most of the people in the NFL can't afford to miss a check.
I can't afford for you to get rid of me.
Got it. They take that neither off the team.
It's not the NBA. It's not baseball. It's not. Those checks aren't guaranteed. If Jerry Jones wants to cut you,
got it. Bye.
See you later.
Yeah, so that's half that reason.
But I don't believe that even the white guys that can afford to get cut,
they shouldn't have to.
They shouldn't have to necessarily. Because I don't want you to kneel. Like, I didn't like Drew Brees' back pedal.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Because to me,
he walked right out of that one.
I understand why he did it and what he needed to do to keep the harmony in the locker room, but if that's not what you believe, like I'm one of the people that's okay with that.
What did he say? What was it that he said?
I don't know. I think.
What was it that he said, T? Do you remember?
I don't want to misquote him, but he basically said that something to the effect that he would never agree with kneeling.
He would never agree with kneeling.
He was the flag route. He was going the flag route.
Which I understand. There's a lot of people that, like me personally, I'm past that point. Right, I'm past the if you don't agree with kneeling part, because I know so many people that don't agree with it. I even know black people that don't agree.
You play with Drew Brees. Does he have a racist bone in his body?
Not in my opinion.
Okay, there you go.
Just because he doesn't agree with kneeling doesn't mean he doesn't agree with our fight.
Absolutely, I agree. But everyone can't be Drew Brees. The things that Drew Brees has done in the New Orleans community, with people of color, no one can dispute.
Second to none.
So that's my point, is like someone like Drew Brees, who doesn't necessarily believe in kneeling, he's separating Colin Kaepernick from the Black Lives Matter movement. But everyone can't do that. You see what I'm saying? Everyone can't do that.
But I'm not even sure if he's separating Colin Kaepernick from the Black Lives Matter movement. The question was about kneeling for the flag, and he's saying no. Like, I don't believe anybody should kneel for the flag. That doesn't not.
That's his patriotism. That's his patriotism.
Yeah. That's his
patriotism speaking out his racism.
I respect with them.
Yeah,
I don't think that's
100%.
racism. It just simply says that I don't agree with that. Now, I believe he agrees with what's going on.
Yeah.
Systematically. And
I'm not gonna lie to you guys though. I
Things
love seeing the moonwalk when people fuck up and say the
it's great.
shit.
Oh, it's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Literally,
It's a great. It's a great
fucking
time.
entertaining.
It's only second to
it's crazy
Dion.
because
It's only second to
Roger
Dion.
Goodell when Colin Kaepernick first started kneeling,
Big bang.
compared to now he has a Black Lives Matter pin. And it's insane.
Because
It's insane.
people have seen
insane.
that, right? And you hear all these people, oh, Martin Luther King was different. Don't compare Colin Kaepernick to Martin Luther King or Muhammad Ali. But the same people, right, back then disagreed with them.
Of course.
So you'll see in 20 years, right, we'll look back on history, and there's going to be kids that look at their parents like, hold on, you disagree with Colin Kaepernick?
For that?
What?
Yep.
Right? That's what's going to happen.
Generation Z,
Right?
baby.
There's people that disagree with Rosa Parks, right? But when you look back on it, what?
You crazy.
You want her to get up for you? Hold on. We're preaching chivalry and being a gentleman, and
Yep.
you asked the lady to get up or out of her seat so you could sit? What? Right? So
What else you got for us, T?
We have another question. Someone asked, what do you believe the role of police should be?
Protect and serve.
Simple.
That's like protect and serve. And literally those two words, protect and serve. Like,
And you think it's just that straightforward?
I mean, obviously there's always some gray area and everything, but if you can stick to protect and serve, we may be fine. And don't get me wrong, I do think it's a very difficult job for police, and I do think they're putting themselves in harm's way, and I do think there's people out there who would physically cause harm to them. I'm not naive to believe this, but most people won't. Most people won't. It just becomes the dramatic situations where, like you're kneeling on a guy's throat over a $10 counterfeit. Like,
Insane.
Yeah.
Like,
or
what
you're
the
choking
hell?
someone out over a loose leaf cigarette.
Or a loose leaf cigarette, or you're shooting in a house with a woman and her drug dealer boyfriend's no longer there.
I don't think our
like, what the hell are we
laws.
talking
Some
about?
of these cops though just like the altercations. To be honest
Of
with you, 'cause
course.
I've heard plenty of them
Of
talk, and they
course.
say they love it.
Listen, don't get
They
this-
love the
don't
altercation,
get
whether
this-
you're white, black, Latino, don't matter.
I had a
They
coach
just
when I
love
was
to get
younger.
aggressive and fight.
I had a coach when I was younger that was a police officer, and he said, I hope somebody runs for me because I can't wait to guide and assist them to the ground.
We played an aggressive sport. Guess what? I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every minute of
Absolutely.
it. I enjoyed.
I loved
be
when
the
it was
same-
cold
it could-
too.
Put the
when
helmet
people
on and
It could be the
shrunk
same
and
for the
said,
police department.
It's the same
It's
thing.
the same thing.
It's the same thing. I enjoyed
The mindset. It's a mindset. If you're in that
Every
locker
minute
room
of it.
or police department, it's the mindset.
It's the mindset. It's the same. It's a
And
warrior's
it's not.
mindset.
It's not for everyone. Everyone's
It's a
not built.
warrior's
Everyone's
mindset.
not built for that.
and
Everyone's
it's
not built
it's
for it.
hunt. It's hunt. It's literally hunt.
Kill or be killed.
Yes, it's hunt. So, like, to say someone may enjoy it, of course. I literally enjoyed it.
That's
to
crazy.
hit somebody right up under their chin, see their head jack back.
That's crazy. Let me tell you something.
I loved it.
I started playing football when I was 12. I got hit one time. I never went back. So yes, you guys have a different mentality.
I loved it. That thing doesn't get any better than that. Hey, Georgia's up, 24-3. I just figured I'd say
You're a
that.
degenerate gambler. Stop. Yeah. So we're getting close to wrapping up. Do you guys have anything else that you'd like to?
No, I
cover?
just want to say thank you to everyone that has reached out to us on social media, asked us all the questions that we went over today, followed us on our social medias, and has given us encouraging words to keep going, keep bantering, keep being bold, brash, and blunt with each other. And I promise you guys, before you guys stop listening, me and Joey will end up arguing
Of course.
plenty of times.
Of course.
And Tyrone usually breaks us up before he beats me up.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you guys listening, and this was
Thanks.
the first episode of many, and we can't wait to keep the content going. Look out for the Unapologetic Gentlemen on social media, and we'll be here next time.